the CSK.
If you're wondering at halftime what sort of score 175 was from the Delhi Capitals, you know now that it was plenty and 44 runs too many for the Chennai Super Kings, who are now consigned to their second defeat in 3 games in this year's tournament. This is World Cricket ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout powered by Dell in the very fine company of Sanjay Manjrekar and Ian Bishop. As we look back at that game, Sanjay, now where do we even start? Let's start by trying to explain Chennai Super Kings' chase and
Yeah.
how that result in the end was such a comprehensive win for Delhi.
Yeah, because at halftime, we both were talking about, I mean, Bish and me, about how the score was maybe 15, 20 runs less considering the start that they had. We talked about that slow partnership, Shreyas Iyer, and everything. In the end, that's a massive margin to win by. In T20 cricket, when you win by 40 runs, that's a huge margin. So now the point that I want to make is that we are watching CSK. It's very obvious to see what the issues are. You don't need an expert to point out, what are the things that they've got to work on. What is going to be interesting is the future of CSK in this tournament as to how does Dhoni react to what he's watching at the moment. Will he think these are initial times? I'm going to give people like Kedar Jadhav, Murli Vijay more time. I still don't need a six bowler. Or will he start making changes now and accept the fact that there could be some issues that he might have and maybe a little tougher challenges this season? So for me, the current issues for CSK, very obvious for everyone to see. The real highlight of this IPL is that master captain Dhoni, how he handles this CSK team with the issues that we've seen that they have currently.
All right. So since you raised the question, let's try and probe the answer here itself. It must be mentioned, Vish, they are missing Ambati Raidu. You think they're one big batsman to take off like we saw on the opening day. They don't have Suresh Raina, but you know the results that they do have at the moment. How do they fix this?
It'll take some tweaking, but I think definitely Ambati Raidu will be a huge bonus for them when he comes back. Young Gaikwad obviously hasn't made a great fist of it, so Ambati Raidu will be one solution. How you get Dwayne Bravo back into this scenario, I think is a need. They have to fit him in because of what he can do with ball and with bat. And Murli Vijay, for me, I'm not seeing what I need to see from Murli Vijay as one half of that opening partnership. So I think those two areas, two of them changes enforced, one of them injury.
The last 2 years, Sanjay, where CSK have defied several odds and been such a formidable team after returning to the tournament. They've had Raidu have a ridiculously brilliant season in 2018, and they had Watson and Faf du Plessis, and they had Raina, but they relied a lot on the top. Now Murli Vijay takes that responsibility, and he's managed scores of 1 of 7, 21 at a run a ball, and 10 of 15. Is that one place that they need to now certainly get right, given the vulnerability in the middle order?
The danger of answering these questions and making a definitive call on such issues is that we're still very early in the tournament. Yeah. Clearly, for me, Murli Vijay doesn't seem to be yet in the groove of T20 cricket. That is very clear to see. Now, we mentioned Ambati Raidu coming in and played that innings against Mumbai Indians was one of the best that we've seen from him. Is it possible for him to replicate that? That is another thing, and that is the issue with a lot of CSK players. Ambati Raidu coming in after the injury, will he again put in those kind of performances consistently? Kedar Jadhav, you saw, he took a while to get going, played a couple of shots, then got out to a very bad shot. So that is something that Dhoni's got to look at as reality. If that is going to dramatically change and everybody sort of gets into the groove and in form and confident midway through the season, then a lot of his problems are solved. But when you look at it now, I'm only looking at Dhoni and I'm thinking, how is he going to change that? Because the opening is not looking good. Gaikwad at number 4 is not fair. He's a young guy at number 4. It's tough in T20 cricket. And the 5 bowler theory, again, no option of a 6 bowler. Jadeja going for 36 in 3 overs and then bats down the order at number 7 and 8, where they'll continue with all these tactics that raises eyebrows, is something that we'll have to see.
Yeah, Rituraj Gaikwad gets all his runs from Maharashtra, opening the batting, finished second to Devdutt Padikkal in the Mushtaq Ali Trophy. So keep an eye out on whether Dhoni wants to put him up. Bish, the question that I'd love to ask you right now is, can you ask players to play differently when you know how they play? Faf du Plessis plays a certain way, Kedar Jadhav plays a certain way, and that's worked for CSK because in spite of the passing rate going up, informed Dhoni has managed to get them over the line. Dwayne Bravo's won them games, Sam Billings won them a game. They found heroes. Now suddenly you're seeing that is a concern. There are more question marks there. Can you ask a Kedar Jadhav or a Faf du Plessis to start and get on a strike rate of 160, 180 and not build innings? Because you're looking at this run chase and see the asking rate go from 10 to 12 to 14 and it just keeps going.
Yeah, I don't know whether Faf or Kedar is capable of those numbers that you talked about. 160 is a bit on the high side, but certainly you can ask players of such international experience to be a little bit sharper, to start a little bit more briskly. Whether they can do it 160, I mean, that is in the highest caliber to come in and tee off from that level. But you see, while CSK were winning, one or two of the guys have always said they don't change the team. They gave Watson a long run last year because they were actually winning. If you're not winning, then you definitely have to look, how can we make this team better? So it's as much for me asking guys to maybe up the tempo just a little bit, but also looking now at your personnel. So I'm not saying it's time to panic, but certainly time to have deeper introspection.
Ronak, it's a little unfair to put Faf du Plessis in that category because we've seen two innings from him, where one he anchored against Mumbai Indians and won the game for his side, and the next innings against Rajasthan Royals, I mean, he showed the extreme opposite of the first innings performance. So this is a guy who can get you that, 140, 160.
Yeah, but
he bats at number 3, Ronak.
Right.
I'm answering a question. He bats at number 3. But Kedar Jadhav, who's batting at number 5 and 6, and with the asking rate when he came in at 14 and 14 and a half, he can't be getting 9 of 12. It just sort of, seals the game there and then. So they've got to have somebody. Just imagine, I hate to give the example of Mumbai Indians because people think, I'm biased towards Mumbai Indians, but they have that kind of quality. When at the halfway stage, if the required run rate is 14, then they'll have a Hardik Pandya or a Pollard to come in and make something about it. Kedar Jadhav, 9 of 12, took a while to get going. And once he got going, he got out. So they'll have to find people, either these people, raise their game and start winning games, or, as I said, the loopholes are pretty obvious. The focus is going to be on Dhoni and how he manages all this.
Okay, before you go to that next point, you can look at it a different way as well. You can say, okay, can we actually shift our batting to a point where it is good enough to chase these, what we would call fairly big totals? Yeah. Or do we now have to say, if you're CSK, maybe we definitely need that extra bowling option so that if we have to chase something, it's not the 180, it's not the 200, it's not the 170, but we need to be able to be good enough now to chase maybe 150, 155 by strengthening our bowling and diminishing the totals we have to chase.
That's an interesting point, which makes Sanjay, because you look at resources, there are plenty of bowling resources that they have.
Yeah. So, he makes a valid point. Then suddenly I was thinking, what are the options for him to strengthen his bowling so that he's only chasing 150, 155? Let's look at the bowling options. When Bravo comes in, certainly, things might improve. They'll get a few wickets. Their problem is actually getting wickets. There isn't a wicket taker in the side, in the middle. Imran Tahir used to do that job. He's not doing that anymore. Chawla did it in the first match. Jadeja is not getting wickets. So who is that person who will get the wickets? Maybe not Santner, Lunge, Ngidi. So when you look at the bowling options, there aren't too many exciting ones apart from Bravo, who will come in and make a difference. So I guess they'll have to somehow, along with the 6 bowlers, still be good enough to chase scores of 165, 170, 180, upwards.
All right. On the other hand, it's still early days in the tournament, we must say. Yeah. So let's wait and see what CSK do. They have a week off now. They play Sunrisers in a week from now, so they have time to reflect on these first 3 games. On the other hand, the Delhi Capitals seem to get a lot right today, Bish, in terms of game plans, bowling Akshar Patel, most of his overs in the power play, getting the wicket of Shane Watson and keeping Rabada and Nokia for the very end. Shreyas Iyer seemed to be on top of his game.
Yeah, I've said to you, I've said to Sanjay, and I've said it publicly that when I first saw Shreyas Iyer leading the Delhi franchise, I think that was the season, it was 2 years ago when Gautam Gambhir sort of departed partway through the season.
Yes.
Shreyas had a few games at the end of 2018 and then 2019. I thought I liked the strategy that he's enforcing. He's scoring runs while he's doing it, so he's wearing the hat of captaincy quite lightly and quite easily. And now he's got a nice unit. I mean, Amit Mishra was brilliant tonight, all his experience in his late 30s. Nokia with his pace, and I like the control that he showed. And of course, Rabada. So it's a really good team. Generally, it's a good team. I'm sure they'll dissect that 10 or 15 runs, even though they won. Ricky Ponting will say, fellas, here's what we can do even better next time. But I really like the construct of this Delhi Capitals team.
Ronak, when we are talking about bowling changes, maybe we should say, well done, Ricky Iyer or Shreyas Ponting. Because, I'll tell you why. Why. Because when Ashwin got injured in that first game, the moment that happened and it was walking off, Ricky Ponting was looking towards Iyer and he said, immediately, and you could see from that gesture that he's sitting there, and I wish there's a camera on him constantly. I think a lot of the bowling changes are ratified or maybe suggested by Ricky Ponting today. Avesh Khan bowling that early was a great move because this was a young fast bowler and he was going to face some nerves later on in this run chase, although it was a big one. But to keep Rabada for later because he can hold his nerves better was a great move to have Avesh Khan bowling that 17, maybe earlier as well. And then, we talk about left-hand, right-hand combination Bish. Now, Akshar Patel was able to bowl his 4 overs for nothing, purely because you had 6 right-handers coming one after the other for CSK, and they opened with 2 right-handers. So, it was a no-brainer for Akshar Patel to bowl his 4 overs, and he bowled his, I think, couple of overs in the first 6. So, we can, maybe criticize left-hand, right-hand combination, but on this occasion, just to neutralize Akshar Patel, maybe somewhere a left-hander would have helped.
Sam Curran.
Yeah.
So today perhaps was the day for Sam Curran to come up. I mean, Vicky, it always triggers the Dhoni conversation and whatnot. But today, for you gentlemen, Sanjay, you thought Sam Curran could have been promoted today?
Yeah, because it just made life too easy for Akshar Patel. I mean, it was a dream spell. What did he bowl? 4 overs for 16? What was it?
It was 1 for 18. Yes, 1 for 18.
Yeah, 1 for 18. So he had only right-handers to bowl to, and he's a wily, sort of naturally suited to T20 cricket kind of a bowler. So he just had a nice, clear playing field.
Maybe we'll extend the conversation just for a bit on Akshar Patel, who continues to put in this shift for Delhi Capitals. He bowled his 4 overs more often than not last season, had an excellent opening game too, Bish. On the other hand, we're questioning Ravindra Jadeja and saying CSK perhaps need a 5th bowler because you can't always count on Jadeja for 4 overs in a 2020 game. What are they doing differently? Why is someone like an Akshar Patel, why is he proving to be more effective for his team as against Jadeja for CSK? It's a question for both of you. Bish, you can take it away.
Well, from the first time I saw Akshar, I thought he bowled a great length. It's a hard length to get to, in as much as, hey, look, he's confident, and consider what he's bowling against as well. Whereas Jadeja, I go back to that game in Sharjah, I think, when him and Piyush Chawla were bowling, and they were too close to the batsman. So I think it's a case of who they're playing against, the quality of the batsman, plus maybe not getting his length right. But I just love the length that Akshar Patel bowls.
Sanjay?
See, Jadeja bowled to 2 left-handers as well. Dhawan took him on the leg side. Rishabh Pant also hit a 6 off him. So he had a slightly tougher ask, as a left-arm spinner. But having seen them over the years, some people are naturally suited to a certain format. So you can't expect an Akshar Patel to do what Jadeja does in test matches. Bowl 30 overs, relentless, on the spot, forward shot, like silly point. I think Jadeja does that wonderfully. And if you ask me, just his bowling style, his temperament, I think is least suited to these formats. And when it comes to test matches, he's a lot more sort of free as a bowler because that suits him. He's very pure left-arm spinner. There's nothing strange about his bowling action. The length is the key. Same with Krunal Pandya as well. When you see him, he doesn't have the most clean bowling action. So when you compare these 3 left-arm spinners, the 2 Krunal and Akshar are more suited with their natural style and approach as well, because they have actually mastered their craft playing more limited overs cricket than trying to take wickets in the longer format. Whereas Jadeja is more of a purist as a left-arm spinner.
Well, the one thing I didn't see, and I can't remember if he did it at all to Dhawan, was maybe to come around the wicket and look to go across Dhawan, bowling a few arm balls. He kept bowling over the wicket, and Dhawan looking to hit with anticipated angle and spin. So that was one thing I sat there watching and with a colleague of mine, and we were talking about that.
And Akshar Patel does tend to continue that angle from left arm round. He's not one of those left arm spinners that comes over the wicket to the left-hander, right? Brilliant. No one asked me for my opinion, but if I had to say, I said the two of you are extremely gifted at every format, even though you've never played in A2020. This has been brilliant. Another fine day from Bishop in the office. So too, Sanjay Manjrekar. Thank you very much.
It's just about, being really sort of passionate about watching the game. I mean, Bish is incredible to work with in the commentary box. He doesn't take his eye off the game. On occasions, I would be talking to a Ronak Kapoor who's got some gossip to share with me. But Bish, oh God, he's just watching the game all the time. And sometimes when you tap him on his shoulder, he's sort of,
okay,
who's that? So that's Bish.
So you take me down, and Bish is having a party over there with half the broadcast team, right? And you're calling him whatever you used to introduce him this morning.
He would have watched every ball, even though he's in company of Danny Morrison and a Hall of Famer.
JP Duminy, Danny Morrison, Lisa Stileka all kept me company throughout this game.
Oh, JP Duminy as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Ian Bishop. Hope to see you and the rest of the gang tomorrow. And Sanjay Manjrekar as well. Always brilliant talking cricket with these fine gentlemen. Make sure you catch detailed analysis from Bish and Sanjay on the site. And we'll be back 7 p.m. tomorrow for build-up for tomorrow's game on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell.